Alright, so this is the video on how I am changing the battery engine control module on my 2016 Chevy Volt, which as of last month had its battery, drivetrain, whatever warranty finish up, and so it was the perfect time for it to go out. Things that made things a little more complicated is that I moved from the US to Europe about a couple of years ago with this car, and the country I'm in no longer has a Chevy dealership, and getting the BECM was a little bit of a headache, but I got it. So now I'm getting ready to do the work, right? And first thing I should say is there's a few different guides that I've used that are helping me with this. I've got the guides that are from the Chevy manual, which is available on the internet. If you pay for the subscription, you don't have to pay for it for very long, just long enough to get the PDFs that you need. Also, there is a write-up on the GM Volt forum for replacing the battery on a Gen 1. So I use that for a little bit of guidance. There's a nice video on YouTube with a teardown of the Gen 2 Volt battery. So sort of all these things together are helping, giving me the confidence that I have to do this job. And speaking of that Gen 1 Volt battery replacement, I'm doing it similar to the guy in that write-up and video, and I have to do it in my own garage. I might put a little clip in here. I tried doing it in a different garage last weekend with a lift that I thought would make life easier. And it turns out that the two sides of that lift were not wide enough to allow the battery to pass through the center. I won't go into details, just trust me on that one. And then had a hell of a time getting my car started. But once I did, I was able to get back home, and I decided it's not moving from my garage until the BECM battery energy control module is replaced. So that's what I'm doing today. So if you take a look here, what you're gonna see beep, 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 is that my car is up in the air, right? As you might suspect. I guess we could go outside later. I'll show you a little bit better from there. But it's up in the air. And importantly, if I go ahead and, let's go over here and grab my tape measure. I'll go ahead and grab my tape measure. And in this case, like I said, I'm in Europe now, so things are going to be in centimeters, but I'll also do a little bit of conversion. So what you see here is that our height from the ground up to the edge of the rocker panel is about 54 centimeter. That's gonna be like 21-ish inches, and that was 20 inches was recommended as the minimum by the guy who did the Volt battery replacement, and so I just did a little bit higher than that, and hopefully that's gonna be good enough to get us where we need to go. The next thing that I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go ahead and clear the fault codes. I don't know if it matters, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So what do we need to do that? Well, the key will allow us to get in here. And then what we're gonna need is one of these guys here. So this is one of the basically internet, Amazon, blah, 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 available OBD2 diagnostic interfaces. I'm going to go ahead, let me give it a little bit of light here. And I'm gonna plug it in right down here. So it's plugged in now, and then I'm going to go ahead and put my car in accessory mode by holding that button for 10 seconds. And then I'm going to get my phone started, and let's see, make sure that I am connected with Bluetooth to this OBD2 guy here. Try and connect. If it doesn't connect, then I'll just go ahead and forget it and re-find it. Forget it and all. This one's just kind of a little wonky sometimes, so let's see if we get it here. Ping, ping, ping. Pair with OBD2, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's typically the code for these things. Alright, I'm connected. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to an app that I have called Car Scanner. It's available in the App Store. And Looks like I am already connected to the ELM and the ECU, diagnostic trouble codes. You can read them all if you want to. The ones that I'm concerned with are the OBD2 and the engine control unit. Read them. What are we going to see here? As you might suspect, all the things that mean bad times. And anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and clear all of these. There's warning, bad things happen if you don't actually fix the problem. Same thing again. Ooh, let me go back here. And then another one here. Okay. So they're cleared, at least temporarily. And the light up here should go off. In the case of mine, it might not because the BECM is totally not behaving anymore at all. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn it off now. There we go. We can disconnect this if we want to. And some people recommended making sure that you keep the key away from the car. And of course, while we're doing this, we're going to go ahead and I think we're going to need to disconnect the battery and also disconnect the high voltage disconnect, or whatever it's called, for the traction battery, the big one, the one that has the BECM on top of it. So I'm going to get ready for that next step now. All right, so what's our next step? Our next step is removing the 12-volt battery. So that's going to require 10 millimeter. I'm not going to remove the battery all the way. I'm just going to make it so that it is no longer connected to the car. A bit of a simpler job. Give it a little wiggle. Just loose enough, should be able to come off. Let's go, there it is. Alright, now I'm going to want to make sure that this thing stays disconnected, so I'm tuck it down and away in a spot where it shouldn't come back up here. And probably in a moment what I'll go ahead and do is even put something over this terminal, that way there's not a chance. Okay, so then what are we going to do from here? Next thing we're going to do, I'm going to blind you all, is we're going to go ahead and undo the high voltage service disconnect, whatever they call it. And so that's going to be in here. So now we're in the console area. And we got this sort of thing here that needs to come out. And there it is. And if you get in close here, you're going to see there's the high service disconnect. There's the directions for it. The first thing they say is make sure the car is off and the key is out. The key's in another whole area right now, nowhere near. You're supposed to use some sort of fancy glove here. I know, to keep it so that you don't kill yourself, but like, what the hell are the chances that like the electricity is going to jump around this thing into your hand and everything? And I just don't think it's likely. So here it is. Now it's high voltage service is disconnected. I'm just going to drop that in there. And what that means is that, well, for now, the high voltage battery is now partially disconnected. The 12-volt battery is disconnected. We're trying to just make the car inert as best we can. And now what I'm going to do is end up going underneath the car to start removing the 3 sort of aerodynamics panels, whatever they call them. Let me take a quick look here. So, truth is, I already got one removed. It's over there, and that's the one from the very front. It's folded in half right now. But I got this big, long one here. It's going to be connected with a whole bunch of different fasteners, and so I'm going to go ahead here in a moment and start undoing them so you can see what's going on. Some of them are even going to be closer ones, like right here. You might have different ones on yours. Let's give ourselves some light so you can see what's going on. There we go. Around this edge, there's some of these like plastic ones, like this one here, and they're all like, I believe they're 10 millimeter. And so I'm going to go around. I'll try and count how many are there total to make things a little more sensible for you all. And then we'll be able to start taking those panels down. All right, so I'm going to start removing that panel. Let's talk about what I'm going to use. Got a 10 millimeter socket here, a 7 millimeter socket, and then a T15. So on my car, there's a mixture of things. Maybe because they were from the factory like that, or maybe it's because of something I did in the past. But I got some T15s right over here at the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those. Oh shit, you know what? That's not even part of the panel I'm dealing with. Well, you might still have T15s there. I think I replaced some of these T15s with these 7 millimeter ones when I was installing the hitch on the back of mine. I used my Volt to tow a camper that I built with my wife all around Texas before we moved to Europe. And so it was a very reliable towing vehicle until the EGR valve started clogging up. And then I was still under warranty, and so they replaced it for me. Nonetheless, yeah, we went all around during the pandemic, and it was very good to us. So let's see, there's that one there. Power assistance here, do these. This one here, there may be one here. When I say end it, because of my storage, so this year's going to so really have the storage. Really long to the panels rather than, it's like the other side of the spare tire carrier. I've got experience with people. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Even also 1, 2, 1. You have to roll something faster. So it's like you're back. So listen, I had this panel that I'm about to take off last weekend, and because of that reason, mine's not full of crap. Yours might be. So you start taking off these plastic nuts here. You may very quickly find you can dump on it. Also, quick on the deal. That's good. Hey. That's okay. Yeah, like 5 minutes. Oh, yeah. So you can put it on your block. Oh, nice. You're not doing that? Yeah. Cool. Hopefully that's easier. Yeah, it's easy. I'm over it. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 of those. Wait, come here. Let's do this. Okay, have another. Alright, another round of 7 of ones here. When you last one, so I'm seeing some more of those white ones I mentioned. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. At least 10 of them. Let me get a count on it. I'm disassembling. I'll start the front. The front, I see there's also a couple of those 7 millimeter ones that I mentioned before. I'm going to undo those first, they're kind of annoying. And the black ones. Here we go. That's a millimeter. Right. 10. 1 of those. Not really. 2. 3. 1 more. More pieces in that number. That's also what I'm calling 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. And then, whoop. 9 more there. Is that it? Oh, another one. That's one. Oh, one more. 11. So 3 across the front. Then another 3. I'll look at that 3 overall. And that's the whole panel. Slide out. Alright, so now I brought you under the car with me. My feet are down by the back of the car. And my drill is right here where there's 2 grounding straps on this battery. So this is the one that's on the driver's side. You know what? We're going to do it my favorite way. I don't like to lose things if I can help it. So instead of removing that ground strap all the way, I'm just going to remove this inner side that connects to the battery tray. And I'm going to flip it back on itself and then go ahead and use the nut that I have that I just took off, if I can, to hold it in place there if there's enough to grab onto. There's not. Okay, well I'm not going to do it that way, but yeah, there we go, that works. Let's see. And now I don't have to worry about losing that nut or that ground strap. And I don't know if you can see it, but I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side.
It's going.
All right, so I'm up under the very front end of the battery here. And by the way, the document that I'm using for this part of the guide is the Drive Motor Battery Replacement and Shipping Preparation. The document ID is 4166092. And basically tells you to remove all the stuff that we've already removed. Then remove those two grounding straps that I just mentioned and showed you all. And then the next is to remove the two electrical connectors that are right near where the coolant lines hook up to the battery. We're going to disconnect those, and then right after that we're going to remove the two hoses that connect the coolant. We might have to put a bucket under here to collect it just in case there's any coolant, or depending on how much coolant comes out. I think it's just a safe bet, and hopefully we can keep it out of our face. But the challenge here is getting these clips undone, so I'm going to take this cam for a second. Thank you, darling. I'm going to show you guys where we're working. So there's the exhaust pipe there, and this is the front edge of the battery, and there's going to be two electrical connectors, one on the left here, or right here, I guess driver's side of the car, and then on the passenger side of the car. According to the directions, which I have here, according to the directions, we need to disconnect electrical connector 1 first, and then disconnect electrical connector 2. So number 1 is the one that's on the passenger side, and number 2 is the one that's on the driver's side. And for those of you that might be side challenged, the one on the passenger side, which you might be able to see here if I can point you at the right direction, though maybe that's more of a challenge than I suspect, is actually black. And the one that's over here on the driver's side is going to be gray. To remove those, there's a little red tab on there. Hopefully you can, let's see if I can point you in the right spot. A little red tab. That tab has to be pulled all the way back. If you're like me, you found out that tab was really hard to pull back, and so I used one of these sort of like bent over screwdriver things to pull back on the tab. And I did that for both sides. And so now, because of that, I should be able to give this a little wiggle. Hopefully get it to come loose. I'm going to put your camera down here for a moment. See if I can get a better situation. Alright, what did I learn? It's really hard to get those out. Just got that first one out. Black one. This little hose thing in the way. What I'm doing is I'm going to put this screwdriver up. There we go. Behind the back of it. Remember, I'm using this kind of screwdriver, the bent over tip. And that made it so I could slide that back in a way that I just wouldn't have been able to do it. And now what you see is we have the full thing disconnected. So once again, that is the electrical connections for the coolant line. I guess I'm going to go ahead and just tuck them away here. In this case, I'm going to tuck it behind the exhaust pipe, so it stays out of our work area. And the next thing is going to be these two big coolant connections. One of the designs that Chevy implemented here is that if these were to leak, they leak into this floor pan. If there's any leaks in the battery coolant, it all leaks in this floor pan. And there's a drain plug right here that you could undo, and then you would know if there's any leaking in the battery. If there's any leaking in the battery, you don't go forward because you don't want that liquid causing you heartache. All right, the next thing is to undo these two coolant lines. This one here and this one here. They're held in by these little clips. Like the one I show you there, I have a little pick going in there to loosen that up, and I think from there it's just a tug backwards, and then it's going to start coming out. The question is, are you gonna like where it's coming out to? And so what I got is a bin here to start collecting that coolant. In the directions, they recommended opening the drain at the top. I'm guessing to let that coolant drain out faster. What I'm gonna do though is I'm gonna wait until I got the drain bucket in position and things are going nicely, and then I'll open that up if it's not coming out fast enough, because I don't want to have as least of a surprise amount of fluid as possible. So I'm gonna set you back here. I'm gonna try and do it in a place where you can see what's happening. It looks like you're there. I have my bucket sort of at the ready. Get myself in position to try and... these are hard coolant lines too, so they're not like they not exactly want to be moved out of position. And they very well don't want to go anywhere. Looks like there's multiple clippy spots. I guess all of them have to be out of the way. I wonder if this whole metal clip can be removed. If it is, I'm going to try and remove it. Maybe. Oh yeah, it can be removed. Alright. There we go. That's one of the clippy things removed. Do the same thing for the other side. Clippy thing removed. Pass them to my face first, then over to my beautiful assistant. Hey darling, can you come and grab these 2 clips from me? And then you can put them on top of the toolbox. Not over there, over on top of the toolbox. Oh, that one's ready to come loose. Alright, the one on the passenger side is like happy to oblige. The one on the driver's side. Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
It's a bit more resistant. What?
Very big item.
Oh yeah, I saw that one earlier. Alright, let's go. Coolant line 1 removed. Not much, released. Coolant line 2 removed. That one's the opening the floodgates. Now this is DexCool coolant that's used for this system, just like the rest of the antifreeze in your car. Funny thing is, it was hard for me to find DexCool. Found it. Think it's the same as G12 Plus. Don't quote me on that, but I think it might be. It looks like things are slowing down here. I'm gonna move that drain plug right here in order to last bit. Obviously, right down here now. There's more. Alright. One on the passenger side is fully released now, and the one on the driver's side there is fully released now too. Coolant lines are disconnected. Hooray! Feeling good about that. And we collected our coolant and didn't let it go anywhere. So I also like that. Alright, now that our coolant for the most part is done dripping, we're gonna remove our high voltage ones. You can tell they're high voltage because they're orange. There's a red tab that needs to come back from according to the directions. I don't know how far back. It needs to come back. Ah, okay. Just about flush with the connector. And then they said there's a green tab that gets pushed in here. Looks like it's just right there. Looks like you can do it just from this orange button, and then the thing should slide back, and indeed it is. And in fact, this one's easier than those other ones were. Alright, I know it seems freaky, but once again I have to use this sort of Z-shaped tool. If I had a plastic variant of that, I would recommend it if you have such a thing. The green tabby, and then prying up from the bottom seems to be the most efficient way to get this thing to actually behave the way it's supposed to. Maybe. We'll see. go. Number 2. So 1, 2, and then tuck away the coolant line for a moment. Get this guy in position. Press in the green tabby. Come on. There you go. Still didn't love it, but it did it. Release the green CPA, pull the gray lever, and depress the orange tab. And then we'll be able to disconnect the big one. So that's the big main sort of power feed. So it's got a, I'm gonna tuck these guys away somewhere else so I have a little bit of room to work. All right, big tab back here. It's a big green one. It needs to slide towards the front of the car, about 1/4 of an inch, and then the gray one can pivot to the pivot, and actually it provides the leverage that you need to get this big boy to release. Depress the orange tab. Orange tab is now on the driver's side. And then if you've got the room, you should be able to get up there and grab onto the whole thing. Get a little wiggle. That's moving. Ever so slowly. That's moving. And then there we go. It's released. The battery is fully disconnected now from the whole system. Hopefully you can see it there. Where are we? We're there. The whole battery is disconnected. I did not remove that extra thing that they mentioned. Maybe it'll make things a little harder. I did, however, it looks like I snapped a little pivot thing for that gray handle up there. I don't know if you can see it quite. I realize my lighting here is not ideal. Let's see. Yeah, there's a little pivot up there. You can see it there. I busted that. Maybe one day I'll hate myself for it. But for now, I'm okay with it. Hopefully the one on the top is good. But that's only an extra level on top of the other tabby that we released. There's 3 tabs, so I think we'll be okay. Alright, so there's one more heat shield here at the back of the car. It's right near the exhaust pipe. Guess that makes its job obvious. It's got 2 of those 10mm plastic nuts. We should have probably taken this off earlier. But it turns out this is when Chevy had recommended it in the directions. So it is off now, and now the entire body, the whole bottom of the battery is exposed now, and all the electrical and coolant lines are now disconnected. Now there's basically nothing per se keeping us from lowering this battery down so we can get to our control module. Now that the battery's in a good place, it is time to start preparing to lower it. So what I've done here is I have prepared a sort of frame for supporting the battery. From the factory, it's of course a bit fancier, but this should do. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of push that thing all the way up to the the underside of the battery and have it stabilized. And that way I can start undoing the bolts all around and have it immediately supported. And then from there, I'm going to be able to lower it down with a hydraulic jack and a few other things that I'm sort of figuring out along the way. But the important thing for you to know, excuse me, is that the battery sort of support plate, whatever you want to call it, the battery tray is about 100 centimeters wide and 160 centimeters long. And so you'll want to keep that in mind as you're designing your support frame. You know, there's the one from the factory. Obviously, I don't have access to that. And probably the best option would be to use a transmission jack or something like, but also we have very little space because we are doing it in the garage. So we're going to have to get inventive, and you'll see that soon. All right, so you all are going to hate me for this, but I did it anyway. And as far as I'm concerned, if this battery falls and crushes me, I'm probably not gonna put it on YouTube. But you can probably do better than this. But anyway, all right, there's the cross brace there. Down, comes across both ways. And then what I've done is I've stacked up wood so that I can take it out one bit at a time at both the front and the back. And then what I've done is I've now supported it through the center. I need to actually probably move back a little bit further. I figured if it's 160 wide and, 100 wide and 160 long, then I probably need to be like 130 down the length of this to sort of get to the approximate balance point of the mass of this thing, maybe further down. So that's what I went for. I gotta go maybe a little further down, but I just put the pressure up now against the battery. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start undoing all the bolts all around. And then I'm gonna, once it's loose, I'm going to go ahead and drop the jack just a little bit so it's resting on these piles of wood. And then I'll go ahead and, as I find that perfect balance point, then I'll go ahead and lift the jack again. And then I will take out one piece of wood, lower the battery a bit, and sort of, as long as I'm doing steady, I'll be okay until I got it all the way down. Now, theoretically, I have enough space here to slide the battery out. I don't want to slide the battery out. I'm just changing the control module. I'm not changing the battery, right? So if we come down with this and we keep it just steady on some wood, then what we'll be able to do is perhaps just take the cover and lift it back up into the empty space left in the chassis so that we don't have to try and find some way to slide this whole thing out and out of the garage and blah, 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 blah. We'll just lift the cover off so we have access to the control module, and hopefully we can do what we need to do from there. So that's the dream, and we'll see if it comes true. Worst case scenario, I gotta lift the car a little higher or something like that. And so yeah, so now it's time to get to handling fasteners. So I don't know, maybe I'll put you guys over here or something like that. Let's see, that's probably not going to be the best. I'm going to see if I can find a nice spot for you to watch from. Yeah, that looks pretty solid. Alright, now if I'm going to go ahead and refer back to this these directions here that we got. Raise the fixture until it's firmly resting against the tray along the entire perimeter of the fixture. We're going through the center, but nonetheless. Drive motor battery fastener, remove 18. Drive motor battery tray fastener, remove 4. Alright, so 22 fasteners total. There's some special ones on the very far end, besides that they're just down the length. So I'm going to see if I can count all 22 of those, and as long as I can, I'm going to proceed with starting to loosen them. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 on one side. So that's all me if I did 11 numbers, that's 20 total. And it'll be 13 on the other. Fresh air gloves. Good boy. YouTube privacy rights or whatever. You'll stop that, so don't worry. There we go. Apologies. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 15. No. Big deal. There. I think I'm wrong order. Alright. 15 on here. Now I guess I have to pressure by the job of the whole thing. Once I'm going to go ahead and start doing people losing around the whole thing. We're started. It's going to happen. Now we've got that. Not too hard. We're that way. I should mention, when I put that support in there, I can make sure it's as best as I possibly could. Left or right. You should do the same. You don't start off well, especially if you let me in. You want that wood. Alright, so that's interesting. Let's drop that size. One drop very gap 13 millimeter, not 15 millimeter. That high. Still taking my precision half an hour around. Okay, that's the side done. Right, back to my. I'll go ahead and
to the side. That's it. Back on 15. No, it's hard to work out, right? Yeah, I'll probably cut out. Hey, over. Right, 22. So the direction's that. Up there, one. Okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. I'll just on the side too. And back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The red number, another. Nice number. 6, 12, 13, 14, 15. Action. More. They are. Didn't resist the red. I'm not quite protected the same way. If you've got part of the rusty part of the world country, etc., I would be careful of losing these. I don't want to get a situation where you snap bolts, you can hold it all. But you're down in here. And my bolt. Once that's out, I'm going to drill it out, replace it. Obviously, that's a serious time, but wow, these guys are real shitty. Alright, my recommendation is to spray one silver night. Of course, I'm going to have you. You go way down. Leave it in your eyes. Two rubber bolts. Shoot them outside, right? There we go. 1, 2, 3. One on the knuckle. The others, making it like. Come on. That's everything else. You're able to get that down. Hey, I'm going to do that. Okay. Well, I got a couple bolts. I mean, this needs to be fixed for the together. That's stuff. What? From Burton Martin for saying. Nothing. They're very accessible, so like, I can get those. That'll be okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So this on your world days, which is one of my favorite content on this video. There's a documentary on HBO about it. They on their song and making a bit of a song that's something epic on it. And this documentary everyone's watching it. And I was going to watch it with me.
Right now?
No, it's busy, but like here tonight for karaoke. Otherwise,
How long is it?
I don't know.
Not sure about
You're okay, I'll be in. You don't have to.
that. Maybe. But that's not my cardio this weekend, so yes, take that for what's worth.
Okay, I'll watch myself.
Yeah, maybe I'll do part of it, not that. But this quarter.
I'm not saying I'm not saying don't watch it this weekend.
Yeah, I'm okay. Maybe.
Okay. You need it?
No.
Okay, then.
These all exactly the same. Just the less. I don't work anymore. Just away. Cool. All of them are out. And you'll notice for the back ones, this one's full length. These guys all snapped to different places. If you're doing with a small hydraulic jack like I am, you'll make sure that it has this pivot function. It'll make your life a little easier. Now I'm going to do the very first lowering. That was literally I don't know, maybe like a centimeter, less than half an inch, and that just took it off of the weight off of this guy. And that was just a check. Now I'm going to go back up. I'm going to remove the same amount from each end. That means one you might think of as like a 2x4. This is going to be the big drop. You don't want to do this one slow and steady. What I'm looking for here is if the front and back are dropping or if just one end's dropping. It looks like the back's dropping pretty good. A little further. Battery is going down. Let's get it to the next stable point. Sorry. Alright, so that hurt bit coming down. I noticed that the front was coming down a little bit faster than the back. For that reason, I'm gonna move my jack up just a little bit. And bias a little more to the front. Then the jack is up. Again, the center, the support structure. There it is. I'm gonna take out the next. Higher scale, right? So make sure my fingers are right. Where's the finger? If I leave some on the low. Look here. Make sure everything. Get out of the way. Looks like everything's going to lose. I'm going to get there. Look at that. There's a foam material here. We'll put it in the top. Like that. I'll go ahead. Go back. Alright. See how it feels like that. Get in there. Drag out low. Okay. Alright, now it's low now. What I'll say is that it looks like it's sort of pushed against the crossbar in the middle, which means that it's down, sort of backwards. Let's see. If I hit this down now. I can sort of fix that. I do. The roll kind of needs to be up. There we go. Okay, now move below here. That's what we want. On low. I'm going to do it one of them. You can do that now. We did it before. We've got low now. I'm good. Now this is what we're from. I'm sure everybody likes. Got it. Alright, I think that's about as low as we can safely get. Alright, so now we're going to be working under the car, and our goal is to lift up this cover that sits on top of the battery. We're going to end up, of course, exposing the battery, but also exposing the control module. So what I just did is just using a brush like this, I just sort of cleaned up all around the edge to some reasonable extent. And now we're going to start counting fasteners. I'm going to start at this sort of top one on the left side here. They're not bad, they're moving pretty quick actually. Alright, they're moving nice enough that I feel confident just going straight to using a drill to remove them. And we lifted the car high enough that we have the clearance. That's good. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 so far. 11, 12, 13 on this left side. Okay, along the back side. And that's number 14. 15. Those are in file. I'll go back then. Interesting. 16. 17. 18. That's very exciting. Let's go to the far side. 19. Pop it, go through the drill this one. 90. Alright, people. So I made it all the way around. And there were 37 fasteners. All 10 millimeter. There were no special ones. Some of them were just dirty and made you believe otherwise. Going around the perimeter of this thing. But on top of that, the module on the front there, I'll give you a peek over here again. This one had another, where are we at? Can you see? This module, get out of the way, paper towel. This module had another 9 on it. So I took those 9 out. I think they need to come out. We're going to find out very shortly. Now I'm going to start just sort of trying to ease up on this cover to see what we got under there. Alright, so let's talk for a second about having the right, turn that off for you, things done at the right time. What I realized is that this midsection isn't lifting up. And then I realized that maybe there's some fasteners that are holding that high voltage disconnect thingy onto the lid. And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually go back inside. And once again, it would have been better to have done this when we first did the disconnect, but I didn't do that. But if you look down in there, there's 4 fasteners there. Luckily, I got this super long
thing that I can use to get those. So I'm gonna pull those 4 out. They're T30, but there you go. That's super tight fit. That'll pull them out. Okay, guys. So the last time we talked, I was talking to you about those 4 bolts on the top of the battery right near the high voltage disconnect. Those should have been done earlier. They weren't. It made for a headache. I got it sorted out. The reason why they're a bit of a headache is because they're in like an RTV, all probably to seal it to make sure no liquids can get in or perhaps out, but mostly in. And so it made it so the whole time screwing it out, there was resistance, which means got to have positive connection with your tool as you're loosening things. So sort of all that jazz. And I would also loosen those 4 equally. I also found there was one more bolt that I missed on the passenger side in the very corner of the T that was making it so I couldn't lift the cover. But now we've gotten to the point. We can lift the cover. And so I've just started doing that. So what I've been doing is just using little pieces of wood, whatever, just like we did with the jack stuff before to lower things down. Got the, 4x4 chunks here. Just been going, you can start seeing the batteries now. See the interface up at the front. We're gonna lift this all the way up into the passenger compartment, sort of, and check this out. Here's the other thing, if we look on the other side. Same thing, so I had a block here, it fell out. So I know there's one there, and one at the front. So basically the whole thing's supported. That's the corner where I missed a bolt. What you gonna do about it? Not much. You just realize when you're trying to lift it that it's not going up. So that's pretty obvious. So what am I doing now? Because I want to go up the rest of the way. Well, to go up the rest of the way, I decided rather than trying to wedge things the whole way, now that it's pretty light and it feels good, that I would just set up a little sort of lifting strategy. So I went across the, I don't know, what do you, grab bars? We used to call them like, oh shit, handles or something like that, whatever it is. Anyway, then another strap coming down and going down into here, into the cavernous area. And what you can see down there is that I put a piece of wood, just a small piece crosswise, the strap around it. And so now I'm just going to be able to, pull up on it here and be able to get that cover to lift up. So I'm going to set you guys outside so you can watch it as I go up, and hopefully everything is looking good during that process. So let's see. Give yourself a view here on it. Keep things in, out, etc. That's my first time visibly being able to see the battery control module. About that. Do this. And replace. Doing it this way I think is pretty cool because it means you don't have to lift the car as high, But anyway. Now, I'm starting to see all the things. The control module's right up there. And I think it's even that one right there. So now I'm gonna go ahead and look at my directions. I think I got enough clearance. If I want to, I can give myself a little bit more. Get in there just a little easier and unplug what I need to unplug. I don't know if there's fasteners on the top, but here's all the battery cells. And also, before I finish this project today, I'm gonna go ahead and remove all this sort of crud here, because what I don't want to do is contaminate the battery area. But overall, I think the battery looks happy. If I was a battery, I would be happy. Disconnect the battery energy control module connectors in the sequence shown above. All right, so in the sequence shown above, what we see is that we're looking at orientation in reference to the high voltage power kill thing. So from driver's side to passenger side, 1, 2, 3, 4 across the back. Then after we do that, we're going to move across the front. The front now is going to be the opposite. The front is going to be from passenger side
to driver's side. So we're sort of going around the module starting at the back passenger, past driver's side corner, counterclockwise. All right, so let's talk tools here for a second. You shouldn't use a metal one, but I did it nonetheless. I'm using a little poker thing like this to pull back the little red tabbies. And then I found this little piece of plastic that I have, looks like a T. I'm using that to push down on the tab while I pull it out so that I can actually get it loose. For these backside ones that I just finished, you'll see that there's the high voltage disconnect bracket here. It's just clipped on real lightly, so you just push it out and then you can lift that bit up, and that's going to give you the clearance that you need to get to those cables on the back side, you know. But now that we're here on the front side, life's a different story. All right, so let me set you up with some light there, and I'm going to go ahead and take care of those across the back. Now, like I said, for these front side ones, you start on the passenger side and then move to the driver's side. So I'm gonna go over there and I'll be back here in a moment. Maybe you can see my hands. All right, I'm using my little plastic thingy to depress it and then pull it straight out, and it comes out a lot easier. Remember, I already pulled out those little red tabs. If you haven't pulled those out yet, you're never going to get these things to come out because you can't press the little button. Did I just run out of light over there? Hopefully not. All right, so I just did the brown one was first on this front side, and now I'm doing the black one. Come on, little buddy. There it is. Yeah, if the red tab isn't out enough, these guys are not going anywhere. Hell, even when the red tab is out, they feel like they're not going anywhere sometimes. There's two. Yep. Pretty easy to see if the red tab has gone enough. If it hasn't, you're not going to be able to push the thing in. Look at these ones, we can see how far out the tabby has to come. About that far out. I don't think this one's made it yet. There we go. Okay. Like I said, if the tab isn't out all the way, your life's going to be hell and it's not going to work. Now I can push the tab in. Yep, there we go. It comes out easy. Okay, that is the 8 connectors that are mentioned in the directions. Disconnect the 3 retaining tabs and control the module. The 3 retaining tabs are 1, 2, 3. Let's just press in. Should be just as, yep, just like that. There we go. The culprit. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one real quick. And I'm going to compare it with the new one that I just got from the dealership. And which would be January 2024. Which consequentially is the month that my warranty canceled. Okay. Old one was part number 23284999. New one is part number 24296900. This new one is made in Korea. It does not have these little foamies. So I'm just gonna go ahead and move those foamy things over if they're adhesive in such a way that that's easy to do. Not particularly. But I think it's still, oh, I was wrong. They can be moved over if you're not a knucklehead like me. you grab it just by the, there it is, the very edge. Putting those bad boys in place. Let's get the other two in here. Make sure you match the bend reasonably. This one I know is a little funked up. That's my failure. I guess the module dies later on. So it must have been that little piece of foam. That was definitely it. But alas, they put it there for a reason, right? So, okay, foam has been transferred. All right, so as you might suspect, install is the opposite of removal. These are all color coded, so even if you got a little confused, you should be able to get things back in place here. All right, that's the new module in place. 1, retainer. Are you seeing this? Yep. 2, retainer. 3, retainer. And 4, plastic in there. Okay, you move back. On the other side. The first one to win. 5, and then. 5 minutes. No, not and over by you guys, here's green. Come on, green, you can do it. Green is in. And now, I'll just go ahead and pop back in place. That's all it takes to resecure the cutoff, by the way.